What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone, we got David Draiman of Disturbed. Thank you so much for your time, David.
My pleasure.
Yeah, huge shout out to our mutual friend, Chris Santos, for connecting us.
Chris is great people. Very talented man.
Yep. I wish he didn't give away my nickname of being called Captain Hot Topic, but, it happens.
I thought that was entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I might as well get that gangster style tattooed across my stomach at this point. But it's great to have you here. Your latest record, Evolution, is absolutely awesome. What I was curious about
Thank you.
is you said that this was an evolution of Disturbed sound incorporating many different elements. Was this a preconceived idea, or did it just kind of happen that way?
No, in fact, the album title was actually the last thing given to the record. So it wasn't until we kind of looked back over how things had developed over the course of the creative process that we were struggling for a title. And it was Danny's suggestion to call it Evolution because it's really what we have been doing, but we definitely fast-tracked it, this record.
Yeah. What I was curious about is because you mentioned, though, it is an evolution in Disturbed sound, so a lot of people are kind of wondering, like, in a way, what kind of different sounds are incorporating in there. Do you think it's conceptually evolutionizing or as well as sonically?
I would probably say a little bit of both. Um, the subject matter is not like it's all uncharted territory for us, but I think that the way that we wrote what we wrote for this record was an evolution of sorts. It's a more mature approach to the songwriting. It comes from life experience, I guess, more than anything else.
Yeah, and incredible. And I heard like you talk in previous interviews about it. What I was always curious about is when it comes to writing lyrics for you, do you need to hear music in order to come up with lyrics, or has there ever been a time where a lyrical subject matter determined the outcome of the whole composition?
Uh, it's always the vibe of what's going on musically that makes me feel a certain way that will end up determining, what the song is to be written about. To me, you can come up with, and I can come up with pieces of poetry, but they don't a lyric until they're married to a piece of music, and that's the whole point of it, is that the music makes it. The music should speak to you. You can have this concept for this very bright, flowery sort of bit of subject matter. You're writing a love song. You go ahead and you try to lay that over a very heavy, upbeat, bright, mid-rangey, up-tempo thing. It may not feel right, or the music should speak to you. It should let you know what it should be written about.
Of course. Now, do you, because I could tell by reading your lyrics that you have a lot of personal meaning in songs like Inside the Fire or a song like Never Again. I know that you talk a lot about your personal point of view on certain things, but could your music also be open to interpretation?
I think it always open to interpretation, and I encourage that. I think that we want our music to be as universal as possible as far as its utilization. It in the past a lot more cryptically, but even like, let's say, a song as you made it, as you alluded to, at Fire, for example, dealing with suicide is something that unfortunately a lot of us can deal with, and so how the emotions involved with that might feel, or if they've expressed them themselves, they're going to relate to it. And I think that's the whole idea behind any great song, is that people find a way to contextualize it and to relate to it on their own level.
Yeah. if somebody were to come up to you and tell you maybe their point of view on the song, even if it's something that nothing like what you were thinking of when you wrote it, can that maybe give you a different perspective on that song than when you first wrote it?
Um, yeah, it'll give you a different perspective, but to me, you know how it is when the first impressions. Sometimes, even when you find out, like when you first fall in love with a song, and if you fall in love with a song, the lyric is a certain way, and then you find out that the lyric is different. It's almost like you have the original version on your head and you can't let it go. It just kind of depends.
Yeah. Now, going back to the evolution of Disturbed sound, as somebody who's followed you from The Sickness onward, even though I was 6 years old when the first record came out, you compare The Sickness to Believe, and then you compare that to 10,000 Fists. I feel like there is always a natural evolution in Disturbed sound. But being that you mentioned that this record is unlike anything you've done before, is it fair to say that maybe the records you wrote previously were rather formulaic and more of a similar approach?
I wouldn't want to say formulaic per se, because we've never really been following a specific formula. We like we like and we have an affinity for coming up with the heavy stuff. We like stuff to be chugging and driving and rhythmic and syncopated, and that's just I guess a style preference, not a formula, because there are many different ways of approaching, driving rhythm, groove. Take for example, one of the pioneers of metal, Pantera.
Yeah.
How many different manifestations of rhythm, were they able to, utilize within what they do on a different level, certainly, and within a different style parameter, but it's a very valid comparison.
Of course, and I mean, Pantera in itself, they've always had a sound that defined them, but always were never afraid to experiment. It's fair to say that Disturbed is a band that you guys are not afraid to try new things, right?
There's always a little bit of apprehension going into uncharted territory for anybody. But I will say that the experience of doing it and now the experience of listening back to it has been so gratifying that there's no way we're not going to try, just going where the creative juices flow on any given day again. We'll definitely do more like what we've done on this. We do more like what we've done on other records, but they'll continue to each have their own flair and identity as we develop them along the way, hopefully.
So it's fair to say that maybe with Evolution, you guys have opened even more doors for more uncharted territory.
Said, only time will tell. I certainly hope so. That was the intention of the record. We're very early in the cycle, ironically, even though the record came out already a couple weeks ago, and it's we haven't really started our main tour yet. There's a lot yet to come. I'm eager, as much success as we've had with the first single off the record. I'm very, very eagerly looking forward to the second, and everything that'll come along with it, and playing some of these venues that we've been dreaming of playing since we were little kids in this upcoming run. So it's going to be really good, and I feel like things are kind of just getting started.
Definitely. Now, in this record, with songs like Hold On to Memories or A Reason to Fight and songs like that, I've noticed maybe that there was an essence of loss, and I heard you say that was an inspiration, losing Chester Bennington and Vinnie Paul and Jill from Huntress. It's been a really dark couple of years for metal. Was there specific people that you were referring to?
They all definitely fall into that. I was definitely closer with Chester and Vinny than I was with Jill. I've only met Jill once at an Ozfest promo thing that we
Yeah.
did in LA together. But she was a sweetheart, and she was very humble, very cool, and yeah, it's them, it's Chris, it's Scott, it's we can go back. It doesn't have to even be recent. It's Lane. It's everybody that we've lost, that's fallen victim to the demon of addiction and depression. It's been particularly bad of late, and we're definitely in particularly over the past 3-4 years. It's just been insane. So
Yeah.
it's too much to bear, really.
It really is. Just recently, we lost Ollie from All That Remains, which was a tragedy too. And
Yeah.
it's
Did you hear anything more other than him drowning? Was there something else involved?
I just saw an article that it's under suspicion now. So I obviously don't like to assume anything, but
Right. I mean, everybody's been, withholding making comments of any kind other than just expressing condolences the way that it should be given the situation.
yeah.
I'm just curious because I haven't heard. I figured maybe a journalist would have heard. But
Yeah, I normally try to hold on to all theories until there's concrete evidence.
Oh, I hear you. I hope it's not what I think.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. Now, one question I was really curious about, now going back a couple years to the Immortalized record, the first record post-hiatus, being that you were experimenting with Device and, Dan and Mike from Fight or Flight and John with Art of Anarchy, Adrenaline Mob, and the 47 other bands that he was in before reuniting. I'm just saying.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna mention that to him. He's gonna die.
Please do. I met him at the Art of Anarchy show, and I asked, "How many bands are you in?" But did experimenting with those projects allow you to bring in any new elements to Disturbed as well?
I think that in some ways they did, because definitely messing with Device, you learn working with other artists, and I definitely had the incredible honor of working with some amazing artists during the Device thing, and in particular with Dan and Mike for the Fight or Flight thing. Them going to those places acoustically that they did with that record, and actually getting involved with harmonies and singing and being a part of all that, really helped facilitate some of what we did on this record. It gave us at least the confidence to go in some of those areas that before they would have never even dipped their toe into. It definitely played its role.
I can imagine. And I thought all those records were really nice to hold people over before moving on to Disturbed back when you guys reunited.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, one thing that I've always related to your music on, not even just from enjoying the music, but something that I've personally related to before, is I'm also of a Holocaust survivor descent, third generation Holocaust survivor. And, from reading your lyrics to songs like Never Again, and, you've been very outspoken. I was wondering if maybe you coming from that similar background influences you in your music at all as well.
Look, we live in a intensifying downward spiral of hatred in this world.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting more and more frightening by the day. You see somebody like Louis Farrakhan openly anti-Semitic conspiracy theory jargon to people, and still having a platform and still doing it, and it's spreading. And I never thought I would see this stuff in my life. Never.
Yeah.
So I'm shocked because someone is always the scapegoat. That's how it started with Hitler. That's how it's being spun this time. Who are the termites that a guy like Farrakhan is referring to? It's somebody's a scapegoat. Somebody is the reason why we are oppressed, or these are the reason why we have the problems we have. This person, this group of people, they're the reason why. It's the same rationale that Hitler had in convincing the German people on the final solution. It's the similarities are just terrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to be afraid of today.
Of course it is. And for me, I don't understand why hatred is always the easiest feeling to feel when it leads to nothing but darkness. Something I never understood.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, but is it fair to say that, like, from hearing my grandfather's story and, what he told me from experiencing in the camps and, from what you've stated in previous interviews, I'd imagine that this has an influence on who you are as a person and a musician, right?
Sure. How could it not?
Yeah.
I mean, your life experience makes you who you are. And, I come from an experience and my family's experience that is traumatic.
Yeah, to say the least.
As do many others, of our tribe. So it is what it is. How can it not be a part of you? It's so much a part of us. You can't. The one thing that Hitler showed everybody is that no matter how far you try to remove yourself from it, that it's in you.
Yeah.
That no matter how far assimilated and you were no longer Jewish in any way, shape, or form, that it didn't matter. Your bloodline was hunted down. It's you either are or you aren't. It's either in you or it's not.
Yeah.
And he showed us.
That is true.
There's no two ways about it.
Agree. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. You're
welcome, brother.
You're doing this awesome up and coming tour. I'll be seeing you at Madison Square Garden. Is there just anything we could be expecting for the Evolution record cycle that you're allowed to talk about?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the most grandiose undertaking as far as production is concerned that we've ever had in our career. I mean, so it's involved. It's a 2-hour-long set. It's bringing back aspects of theatrics that we haven't really showcased in a while, and really making it a pretty incredible evening list. So we're a lot of hours, a lot of work going into it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
All right, brother. Be well.
All right, take care. Everybody, we are here with David Draiman of Disturbed. Pick up Evolution if you haven't already. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.